Hey there, true believers. The X-Files is back, and so are we. It's ABTV X-Files. We're talking about Season 11, Episode 1, My Struggle 3. Come on down to the parking garage because we have secrets to tell you about the mystery baby. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Do you feel that tingle?
I know.
Do you feel it in your feet, moving up your leg?
Takes me back.
Into your torso. It may be a stroke, but it may be because the X-Files is back, ladies and gentlemen, and we are here for the entirety of its run, breaking it down just like we did for the limited run last season. I am Lex Michael. I am all over social media at the Lex Michael, and I am here with...
I'm Lacretia Lyon, guys. You can always find me at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet since there is only one.
I am Jim Frye. You can find me online at Con Guy Jim. That's because I manage this website called The Con Guy. Shameless plug, and we love the X-Files.
And you follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Frank Moran at HappyGoJackie.
Jim, excited to have you joining us this season.
I'm so glad to be here. This is like my favorite all-time show.
So I wanted to ask right up top, I think when we first started doing this, when the show came back last year, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was a fever dream that I had, we started off by talking about what our first exposure to the X-Files was, and we all had a story about how we first connected with the show. So really quickly up top, since you are just joining us for the first time tonight, wanted to get a real quick rundown of your history with the X-Files.
Super quick. Way back in the 90s when I was out of work and I was borrowing I was married back then, and my wife was like, get a job. Of course I should have, but so I went over to my buddy's house because I didn't have a computer and all that stuff to print up my resume. I'm old school. And so I was sitting in his house using his computer to send out resumes and everything, and I look over and he has this stack of VHS tapes and they're all marked X-Files. And I was like, what's this? And he let me borrow a few. I got no job hunting done that day. He let me borrow 5 more episodes the next day, and so like in a matter of like, I don't know, a month, I watched every single X-Files episode. I became obsessed, and I've been obsessed ever since.
Did you see them all in order?
As much as possible, but no.
Whatever was available, you just grabbed it.
It was kind of, and for those who watched the episode last night, and speaking of that wife, I got married in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Hey!
Yeah, that marriage didn't last.
No. Okay, so this was a big episode. One of our, I believe, 2 full-on mythology episodes that we're going to get this season, the other one being presumably My Struggle 4, which will bookend this season. Frank already looks grumpy. So why don't we, before we really get into the nitty-gritty of this episode, before we face the truth, why don't we get everybody's real quick, just off-the-cuff, initial reactions to this premiere as a whole?
This album is dedicated to all the teachers that told me.
It was all a dream.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I hope you found the clean version.
Yeah.
I feel if any, I think what was great about the X-Files originally is that it did introduce mythology, and it was great, and it really hooked audiences. This is a show that just needs to drop the mythology as quickly as possible. And I know the majority of the season, I feel like the mythology is just damaging the show at this point.
Well, there are a lot of people who argue that the mythology really should have wrapped up with the dissolution of the Syndicate in season 6.
We talked about that right before the show started.
Yeah, that's when it became, it's like, okay, I think Chris Carter's vision was done then, and that's when, when you've made the sale, just quit selling, okay? Because now you're just effing this up, dude. Like, I'm sorry, we all know how I feel about you. No, stop it.
So, do you side with Frank? Largely, you're maybe in the minus camp more than the plus camp for this premiere.
As I say, I liked it up until the very end, and that reveal just killed it for me, especially being this Dr. Dana Scully. She's a doctor and an FBI agent. You're going to basically rape her, whether it's science or whether it was just good old-fashioned Cosby rape. I mean, seriously, why do we have to do this on television to every strong female lead? And it was
Are we
just
talking
so
spoilers
cheap.
now?
I would say let's come back to this because I
Yeah.
feel like towards the end of our episode, I feel like we're all going to have a number of different thoughts about this reveal in context. So, Jim, what about you?
I think I'm more on the positive side on this one, and I think I may be one of those guys who drank the Kool-Aid so long ago and I can't get away from it. I'm like 2 Kool-Aids away from Jonestown right now when it comes to X-Files. So I did have my problems with last night's episode. I felt it was a little bit it didn't feel as X-File-ish as what I remember. It was a little frenetic, and it was more like 24, da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. And I was out of breath at the end of every scene. And but overall I liked it. That scene right there, it was an icky thing for me, and I was like, I loved the callback to season 7.
Yeah, I really liked that. As bad as that was, they at least started using pieces and explaining it, but it was like, why bother? This felt very unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't imagine Chris Carter had that, like, man, I'm going to just plant this. And, man, if I get this hypothetical 11th season,
He does
I can
talk
finally
about, there
pull
was
the
an interview he
trigger.
did, I think, with
Right.
Entertainment Weekly,
Yeah.
where he was asked specifically about this choice, and how if you go back to season 7, the episode En Ami, where Scully takes that road trip with the smoking man because he's promising her this cure for cancer. He was asked specifically about that element of it, about was this something that you had in your mind at any point? And he insists that it was, that if the X-Files had continued further at the time, this was something that they would have explored.
It went 2
Well,
more seasons. He could have wrapped it up. He forgot about it. It fell off his radar. I love Chris Carter. He goes dark, and he likes to write thick, multi-layered stuff. I read the same interview. I call BS on that. I don't think he was, I'll do this 20 years from now. I'm going to explain this mystery.
It's like George Lucas whenever he claimed he wrote the first episodes 1 through 3, and then he had the whole plan the entire time for Luke and Leia to be brother and sister, Darth Vader to be bullshit. Sorry, no.
But it
you
would be
didn't.
appropriately X-Filesy to bend your account of history. Speaking of which, segue, we open this episode on one Carl Gerhard Busch.
Yeah.
The ostensible real name, if you were to take him at face value, which as we've learned is maybe not well advised, but if we take him at his word, this is the first time we've ever learned the true name of the smoking man. We got those initials, CBG Spender, in the original run. First time his name in full has been revealed, and we get this monologue, much like Mulder and Scully's monologues in the mythology episodes from last season, and we watch him. I read a recap that described it as Forrest Gumping his way throughout history. We got those wonderful, like, superimposed versions of the smoking man behind presidents. So we get this whole account, and it seems to really reshape our understanding of his character in a way, because I feel like the picture of him that's been painted for us in the past is very much a figure that operates incredibly discreetly, entirely in the shadows. It seemed a little bit odd to me to see him in the open standing next to presidents, and I wanted to get everybody's take on that.
Well, I mean, I guess what other better way to show his alleged impact throughout history? But then also, it's like, I guess everybody's a hero of their own story. So certainly, kind of, if it's all told from his perspective, then yes, I was just right there, right next to some of the most powerful people, and I was really the one that was pulling the strings.
Yeah, this was pretty well, almost just sounds like sympathy for the devil. Like, please allow me to introduce myself, and he was there through all these things. It's like, yeah, is he Satan? Oh, wait, no, Satan solves crimes in Los Angeles on that network.
Yeah,
He's a good guy.
It's almost like, is he
Yeah.
a reliable narrator?
Yeah.
I mean, can we even believe what he's saying? I mean, the thing was, we knew that from the episode that he claims to have been the guy who shot JFK. And so they said, oh, well, let's just roll. We also faked the moon landing. Which was, whatever. That was kind of cool, I guess. But Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing.
Yeah.
Don't take claims for Stanley Kubrick.
We've seen him too. We know that he's not the most reliable of narrators. It's the smoking man. It's essentially really is Satan with cigarettes.
No.
We've seen him bend the truth of his own mythology in the past as well. Was season 4 was Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man, I believe?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite episodes. I mean,
Where we get this a similar, longer account of his travels and his interactions with major events throughout history. And again, it's this question of this character is so enigmatic. How can we take anything that he says at face value? How can we take anything that we're seeing at face value, given especially that it now seems that the events of My Struggle 2 are being framed entirely as either a dream or a prophecy of some kind? Frank, you're shaking your
Yeah.
head.
That was
Let's
just-
go. Ready? Frank, go.
Yeah.
It was
Beef
just
it up.
irritating. As much as we hated this, I know Jim wasn't here last season, but I think all of it just decidedly panned that last ending of the last season.
You guys decidedly panned it. I laughed while you guys decidedly panned it.
Lex
Okay.
really pans it. He just doesn't like you.
What-
people to
what
know
did you
he
think
hates
about it?
All right. So, no, if I'm being completely honest, where I come down now on these new X-File mythology episodes, especially given that My Struggle 3 seems very much of a piece with My Struggle 1 and 2. The same stylistic elements that we didn't see in the non-Chris Carter episodes last year are present in this one. We're playing with the timeline. We're telling bits of this story out of chronological order. Lacretia, I think off mic, I said this to you earlier. I wonder if when we get the fourth piece of this, you'll be able to watch just my struggle as perhaps a bit of a third X-Files movie. Having said all of that,
Frank's
which I'll
face
never
is like,
do.
God, no.
I will never do that.
Wait.
having said all
The
of
Kool-Aid
that,
drinker in
Yeah.
me, though, at the end, because I thought that last season, a lot of people panned it. It ended in this giant cliffhanger, and I had to talk myself into appreciating it more than I did on the first viewing. And I'll be honest with you, the first viewing was like, what the heck? What's
Right.
going on? But then you think about the whole thing has been Mulder trying to convince Scully that life elsewhere exists, and so it ended with she finally saw it.
Yeah.
And I almost liked it just for that.
Well, it's the payoff to that moment from the end of the first movie where that giant UFO flies over them and Scully is conveniently unconscious just for that window of time.
But I had to talk myself into it. I did.
But so where I got to, and this is true of the original series as well, after about the midpoint of season 6, when the mythology continued and they had to do a certain amount of story gymnastics to continue the mythology in any form, I adopted an attitude towards the mythology episodes which can best be summed up thusly. Okay, sure. Yeah, all right. And that's pretty much where I come down on most of what we're getting from this story. It feels like you're trying to apply the sensibilities of a show like The X-Files to the world stage as it exists today. And it's so, you referenced the moon landing specifically, right? It almost seems quaint now. The idea of the moon landing was faked is the scariest, weirdest thing we can think of. Like when aliens and fluke monsters are less scary than what you're seeing happen right in front of you every day, it becomes challenging to try and tell a story that is this big. I'm very much looking forward to a lot of the Monster of the Week stuff. I would say I'm into the mythology that they're building in this new run of the show, these 2 seasons. But again, my attitude is basically, yeah, okay.
When I watched the original series, the mythology episodes, contrary to what everybody else, those were the ones that hooked me. Like, I almost bought, they had a special, the mythology episodes, a DVD
The DVD releases, yeah.
Because I loved so much those mythology episodes. I looked forward to them. And I kind of agree with you. Like, this time it's like, okay, we have this 1 hour. Let's shove 2 seasons worth of mythology into 45 minutes here. It was just, I've heard I've used the word too muchness now and before. Like, there was too much, like, this is happening and this is happening. That mythology isn't real because this one's real. And you know what? Since that one doesn't work anymore, we're going to give you this one and it's going to kill everybody. And
right.
It's like, it was just so much. And I just remember the first time in 5 seasons of the X-Files, we got the mythology. It took 5 seasons, and they have. I think it was too much. That's the mythology is what I'm talking about.
And I almost wonder if Chris Carter had a similar moment himself, because we did, for all intents and purposes, wipe the slate of everything that happened in the finale of season 10, the limited series, that we don't want going forward.
Yeah, and that's the frustrating part, is that was almost the sentiment that the majority of people were expressing, is like, I feel like the mythology died, like, sort of in season 5, and as we say, what happened after that, that's when he should have left as showrunner, kind of like Eric Kripke did with Supernatural. Once they were done with season 5, that was the story he wanted to tell. The show kept going, but then they were like, no, it's just Monster of the Week episodes. And they, it was done. But that's the thing, is you can continue a show, but you have to understand, once the story you were telling is over with that, it's time to let it go. Elsa.
It's at the end of this episode when Scully's talking to Mulder. It's like, hey, we got to continue. We're not going to worry about William. We'll find him.
He'll find us, so we can get back to doing Monster of the Week stuff.
Well, but it's just like,
it's convenient.
yeah. The more I watch the show, the more it kind of gets frustrating. Where I love the Monster of the Week stuff, probably more so than the mythology for sure, especially at this point in the show. But I feel like it's weird to say like that the answers are in the X-Files, because ultimately the mythology, the Monster of the Week episodes, they're just standalone. They really have no ever any impact on the mythology parts of it. So to say like the answers are going to be found in the X-Files, no. Some fun, cool, singular episodes are going to be found in there.
We're going to find some
but
Bigfoot.
Nothing that's really going to.
Some writer had to write that to validate why they were doing more episodes. It's all that was.
Do you know what
for.
I think? Maybe what it is for me, what I find myself bumping into, if anything, more than one or more other elements, it's that the style, the visual style, like the aesthetic style of these new mythology episodes, feel very current. Like Jim, you compared it to like almost like a 24 feeling of freneticism. That, but with the same style of writing, this weird like soap operatic, melodramatic writing style that was right at home at on early to mid 90s primetime television. stylistically, the two feel like an odd match. Scenes like the conversation in the car in the garage between Reyes and Smoking Man and Skinner, I think I would not have given a moment's thought, to any part of that exchange beyond the information that we need for the story. Watching it this time, I went, this all sounds weird to me. And not even in a bad, I was having a great time watching it. Like, that's not even me throwing shade at the show. Again, it's those aesthetic elements, the stylistic elements just feel almost at odds with each other.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like you say, it was very, very melodramatic, and two, that could have worked with the old style of the show, but when you're doing like those 24 elements that are really just more about getting this information across, it felt really weird to me as well. It's like, what's happening?
So Scully has had a seizure when we open, and she's hospitalized, and her brain is sending coded messages. Frank, you look so mad again.
Come on, that was like Morse code out of her brain with her flight or flight. Like, ugh.
Yeah, find him, which was it. Which there are elements right in
But
this
she listens to
episode.
her heartbeat. Her heart's saying something else, and her brain saying.
It's well, we get a
She's
couple
blinking.
of callbacks to the episodes from the previous season, right? William is referenced that pretty heavily in this episode, but it ties back to when Scully lost her mom last season as well. Her final words were also "find him," which was the coded message that Scully's brain was sending. Who is the him in question? Presumably it's William, but I don't take anything for granted anymore. So she wakes up while Mulder's at her bedside, and we get one of those great vintage Mulder inner monologues, which, not for nothing, I would love to be in the room watching Duchovny just do all, like, reading off the page, all of the Mulder inner monologues.
It seemed flat to me, though. I don't know. Duchovny's, I mean, as much as I love Duchovny, I just felt like, man, these monologues are just kind of just flat and dull.
He has the same enthusiasm as Frank in them.
Yeah. And at this point, it wasn't I. Ugh.
But at this point, Mulder has to be convinced of the possibility that the Smoking Man may still be alive. As we all remember, he seemed pretty dead in the original finale of the show.
Can we talk about how he died in the original finale of the show?
Let's do it. Lay it out for folks who maybe missed the original series finale of the X-Files.
Let's remember, a missile blew up in his house, right up his ass, and he dissolved.
He
His
literally
skull
disintegrates.
was the last thing we saw, and then it dissolves. And now he's somehow back together.
He's got a great face guy.
Yeah.
A really excellent. Like, we saw him last season removing a portion of his face, and there's this big opening under his eye. And even given that, that's some impressive work. So he has to be convinced that his father's biological father, the Smoking Man, is alive and in Spartanburg, North Carolina.
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
I was married there.
Yes, Spartanburg, South Carolina. And from there, he's going to unleash this plan that he has. And his plan, as I understood it, is essentially that he's going to use an alien virus to start humanity over. Humanity's become too corrupt. We're destroying the planet. The aliens were here to help us at one point, maybe. Now they want nothing to do with us. We're going to wipe the slate clean.
Is that the plan?
Start over. That's what I gathered.
I couldn't. I was asking you, or was it he made a deal with the aliens? Hey, you couldn't take the planet now because we've used up all the resources and it's too hot. So I'll get rid of all the people, so then you can come. Or is it just, why is he wanting to wipe everybody off the planet?
The impression that
He's only
I got,
got like 2 years left of life anyways. What's his problem?
I think he's got a God complex is the root of it.
Yeah.
I think he's got a God complex, and he knows
A devil complex.
I can say yes, and we can save a certain number of people. Scully gets saved because she's immune. The few of us that are immune are fine. And I suppose his idea is once we level everything, we will rebuild us chosen few.
Like a latter-day Noah's Ark.
Exactly, with more cigarettes.
Yeah.
So Mulder ends up, diverted from Scully, as often happens, but we get a fantastic return appearance from one Jeffrey Spender, who we have not seen since the original series finale, who also, not for nothing, has had some pretty incredible cosmetic work done.
Yes.
Yeah, they got a family discount, I'm guessing.
I guess I forgot, what happened to him in the original? Why is he all burned up? I forgot his ending in the original series.
If I remember correctly, Frank Lacretia, you tell me if I'm misremembering, but essentially his father, the Smoking Man, shoots him, at which point we believe him to be dead, but they bump into him, I think, midway through season 9, and he's horrifically burned, disfigured, because apparently his father kept him alive and had him experimented on. These are not nice people. These are very mean gentlemen.
Yeah, he doesn't love his sons at all.
No.
He's really down with them both dying. It's like, that's pretty dark.
You say sons, because last night we also heard, And I didn't remember this, but it didn't shock me either, so I thought I remembered it. When his other son was Mulder.
This was something that they set up in the original run.
Okay, I thought so, because at first, because I was reading Twitter and everybody's like, what? He's his dad? And I was like, I thought we already knew that, but then I don't remember when that was revealed.
Yeah, it was revealed, but I'm trying to think of when it was, because, like, they really didn't talk about it at all in the last 6 episodes either. It was kind of odd that they didn't bring that up when Mulder were talking, so it is sort of odd how they brought it back, and even though it was canon, it's like, it's an afterthought.
To be fair, I don't know when it would have come up, because there's a certain stretch, right? It's either late season 7 or somewhere in the early part of season 8 where Smoking Man is out of the picture for a good long while until we see him again in the original finale. And Mulder and he don't spend any time together in the last 6 episodes until like the very end of the finale, when it barely makes sense that they're together.
Yeah.
But did it really happen?
Who knows, man?
Apparently, only the first 5 minutes of that season really.
For all
that episode really happened.
Smoking Man might be my dad. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have these answers.
Could you be
What
my
if
dad?
he's not really alive?
Yeah.
What if he's going to do
He's
another
just a
mind
figment
F on
of
us?
their
And, oh my
yeah.
gosh.
So when we do see Spender is trying to reach Mulder, and he gets hit by a car, and he's chased down by this guy who tells him that all they want is the boy, presumably referring to William. Somebody pointed out in a recap that the door he's hiding behind reads the 209, which is a very intentional nod to the fact that apparently in the overall run of the entire X-Files series, this would be episode 209. Cute guys.
Yeah.
Super cute.
Well, but what I like though is that the guy just like, we just want the baby. Just give us the baby. He's a shout. Like he's, oh, that's all you wanted? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The baby,
Totally.
the chosen baby.
Yeah, let me tell you.
And not for nothing, like, do these people think Spender spends the weekend with Mulder and Scully? How long has it been since they've talked?
Yeah.
Well, they said they haven't seen him since that he took off with the baby.
And like
Good
Scully,
old Uncle Spender. Yeah.
when he shows up pretty shortly after that, he shows up at Scully's bedside, and Scully seems surprised to see him, and not the type of surprise was like, oh wow, you're here, like, oh wow, you're here, etc.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, didn't I like give you my kid until you never to see me again? Like, sort of thing. It's like, oh, well, you were trying to look for your kid. It makes sense for him to come. And if there really is this whole psychic connection here, because maybe Spender has it as well.
True, but I also like, why he had to leave as soon as anybody else came in the room. Like, if you already told him the name, like, you can hang out for a minute or two. It's like, no, other people have seen me. I must disappear now.
So here's the part of this that doesn't jive with other elements in this episode for me. Given exactly what you just pointed out, and given the nature of Mulder and Scully's work, and given the nature of all of these characters' relationships to each other, why does Mulder have Spender's number in his phone with his name on it? that part, I chuckled out loud to myself, because that part felt like such a strategic misstep on the part of this FBI agent.
But yeah, because it's like, okay, if nobody's supposed to know where he is because he was the one who has your kid that everybody is after, why would you just straight up have his name, his number just in your phone that could easily be hacked?
And
Mulder
not for
wouldn't
nothing,
do
Fox.
that.
Like, you always find your way out of these situations, but you're abducted a lot. And people look through your phone, dude. They can unlock this. Yeah, that part I did bump into ever so slightly.
Well, maybe, as long as he's abducted by the FBI, they have trouble hacking phones, so
I
that's what
thought-
he's thinking.
The thing that bumped me was that he was able to trail the car for 3 or 4 states.
Yes.
No bathroom. Well, we don't know about that, but like, what? Like, he just so happened to have a full tank of gas, and when you're trying to follow somebody on any kind of highway, you always it's not an easy thing to do. And like, that guy never saw him back there. He's the only car
The only
on the
other
road.
car for 3 states. But we do get a pseudo car chase.
Oh, that took forever. That was like real time to get me. It felt like we were going to watch 7 hours getting to this.
Yeah, it's like watching news in Southern California. There's always a car chase, and it always takes forever.
But
Never ends
so
well.
Frank, intercutting it with the Smoking Man monologue did nothing for you?
It's just like, man, guys, just give me just one cut. Just he takes off, follows him, cut. We're just already in South Carolina.
I
did
agree.
not need to
I
see
agree.
all of that.
He does, and this is skipping ahead ever so slightly. He does get back pretty quick.
Oh, I know.
Yep.
But so we get a lot of monologue, and we see in short appearances in the first half of the episode or so. We see that Reyes is as established last season, working with the Smoking Man. We still have no idea why.
Yeah.
And maybe you guys saw some news that I didn't, but as far as I know, we still are not seeing a return appearance of John Doggett this season.
I know they tried to, but the Scorpion schedule, I think, might have made it challenging.
Yeah, I've heard. I don't remember if they were able to work it out just a little bit, because I know they were trying. Yeah.
That would be cool. I didn't know they were
Yeah.
trying to get him back on.
I would love to see that, if only to help explain what happened. Because
Yeah.
the last time we saw Reyes before the show came back last season, she was the ally that drove Scully out to the middle of nowhere to help her deliver her baby.
Yep.
Why is she now?
I stinking loved that episode, by the way.
Oh, that from season 9?
Yes, I loved it.
But so what? I'm going, what happened? And so maybe reintroducing Doggett into the narrative somehow, if only for an episode, could help us fill in some of those blanks. And not for nothing, I would love to see Robert Patrick back, because Robert Patrick, one of my favorite things in all of the X-Files is the way Robert Patrick says, "No roar." And I know Noah Roar flew into a mountain in the original finale, so he's not around anymore. But I want Doggett to come back, and I want two things desperately. One, to help clarify what happened with Reyes. Two, for him to tell a lot of Noah Roar stories.
Well, and two, it's if we couldn't get Doggett, Adam Baldwin was also considered for that role. We could have just had him play it. I would have been okay with that.
Just a recast.
Or you
Yeah,
just bring Noah
come
Roar
on.
back, almost like they kept halfway killing off Krychek and bringing him back. Bring back Noah Roar, and every time he leaves a room, it's the same effect of him flying into the mountain, just out a doorway. And then he comes back, walks in very casually, leaves the room again. All right, where are we? Okay, so yeah, still no real idea what's going on with Reyes and why
There
she
he is.
completely. There he is. There's Robert Patrick. Look how dapper he looks.
He was in my favorite SVU episode.
I want more of this. I want more of all of it. So Spender appears at Scully's bedside. Spender is not able or willing to divulge too much information, but does give Scully the name of the family that adopted William.
Brie
Yeah.
Vandekamp from Desperate Housewives.
Yeah, that's
Is
what I
it?
thought immediately. Whenever they were
universe?
like Vandekamp, I was like, yes, can we bring on Marsha Cross?
She'll kick some ass.
Yeah.
And we're jumping around a little bit between this conversation and then we see Mulder's car chase, the smoking man's monologuing, and I like that he justifies his lack of concern about his plan getting out with the fake news line about if people knew. I'm not aware if people knew about this, it would be dismissed as so much fake news. And how did that moment play for you guys? Because it made my chest do a weird fluttery thing, but I don't know yet if it was a good or a bad fluttery thing.
Well, as I say, it's almost like when in Crisis on Earth X, the CWDC crossover, it was like how I felt when the Nazi stuff was happening, is I feel bad, but I feel like it's necessary. So I think that was the thing, is it was jarring because it was so realistic, but that's a good thing.
I don't know if I heard some shadowy figure is trying to wipe out humanity with a contagion, I wouldn't think anything of it. I know. I guess, and it sounds terrible, but we hear so much crap that you just turn on. I wouldn't believe it.
I mean, our current president is in a Twitter war with the North Korean dictator, so.
He's got a bigger button.
Which not for nothing
But,
is
you
so
know-
much scarier to me than this Spartan virus. not for nothing. Yikes. Sorry, you were saying.
Were they insinuating that Cigarette Man got Trump elected?
We did see Trump
Yeah.
and Putin in that footage.
Oh, and he
Yeah.
got Putin elected? Something happened. He was somehow involved in something.
It is weird
He's
seeing
done everything.
X-Files with contemporary political figures. That seems
We're
weird.
gonna see
Yeah.
him grilled by Mueller pretty soon. That would be awesome. That would be so great.
I mean, they
He
pretty well
is the
have
Russian
Bannon in here
conspiracy.
now.
It really is like that. The fake news line specifically, it is interesting because this is essentially the mode in which they've been telling conspiracy stories since the beginning of the show. But now grafted onto the world as it looks now, it is, to me, it feels so odd. Because even the fluke monster is less jarring than what all of us are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Yikes.
Well, I say if you did see a fluke man, I think you'd be taken aback.
I would take a photo.
Yeah, I'd be
Would
like,
that be it?
Yeah.
Like, oh,
So-
I mean, I wouldn't stay there. I'd take a photo and back away and maybe call some type of authority figure, but you wouldn't want to you wouldn't try and selfie with the fluke man.
Yeah, I would.
I feel like the Flash would
Have
do
you
it.
guys never seen the Freak Show down on Venice, on the
Yeah.
Venice Boardwalk? They have some people in there that the Fluke Man might feel not so out of place. They even have a guy who takes off half his face and you can see down inside his skull.
Okay.
Just like,
Yeah.
Just
oh,
like
sorry,
Smoking-
just,
just
like
like
Smoking
Smoking
Man.
Man.
Maybe where that came from. Sorry.
I would
Kurt
just
Angle
go to
on
a
a
family
Venice Boardwalk.
reunion and be like, yeah.
So we actually move pretty quickly into the back. Like the whole third act is essentially two conversations happening simultaneously, while Scully finds herself back in the hospital. She gets herself out of the hospital, gets into a car accident, ends up back in the hospital.
That whole thing was like pointless to me. Like, why did she need to leave the hospital?
Because they needed to introduce the two.
They need to bring back Einstein and Miller and give them
Yeah.
something to do.
And which was
To
like
walk out of the ward. That was it.
No, did you hear what they said? Oh, we were just outside and we saw her get in an accident, so we brought her in. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
That
we
was
needed
pointless.
Firestorm. I'm sorry.
And it feels like too, we maneuvered her back there so we could put her in a position to be at risk from this assassin figure. We could have just kept her in the
absolutely.
same spot. I would think. And you accomplish Miller and Einstein being reintroduced to the narrative. But they could have just visiting hours. They could have just come to say, "Hey, like we like this person."
Or that you could have had a better writer. I'm sorry, Chris Carter. I love your stuff.
no.
Write actual plot which involved them. You know, instead of like, oh, we saw an accident, we come in, we go away. That was wasted.
Chris Carter, if you're listening, the views expressed here do not reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or especially myself, Lex Michael. I'm your friend.
Chris Carter,
I'm your
I
friend.
love your show.
You have an enemy in Douglas Jones.
But I hope when we saw Robbie Amell take a look back as he sees that the henchman of the jowly guy.
The jowly guy.
Jowly guy. I feel like Art, he's going to be the person that's going to come back and save Scully at the end. But
He's just standing there.
he just looked back and said,
the
"Oh,
next,
Young Mulder,
well, the
as we
next
call
in a
him.
long line of silent assassins in the X-Files mythology. So, all right, Mulder tails the same guy. They both get back pretty quickly. Tails the same guy to this house where he meets these two. One of these characters that you referred to as the Jolly Man. These two characters, it's Barbara Hershey as Erica Price, and A.C. Peterson is a character credited as Mr. Y, who look weirdly to me like doppelgangers almost of Smoking Man and Reyes.
Well, I thought
it's a heavier Smoking Man. Yeah.
And he looks suspiciously like Steve Bannon. That's
Oh,
what
he
I
did?
thought. I
He
was
did?
like,
with a nicer suit.
yeah.
But I do like that he's billed as that Mr. Y. It's like, why is this character in this show? Why is this character being introduced now? I feel like there's always X-Files has that long history of like, we've got the cigarette smoking man, but there's always somebody from the syndicate that's just some random character that will give some important name to, that they stick around for a few episodes and then they get killed.
Well, if you remember, right, after Deep Throat was killed in the season 1 finale, they brought in Mr. X,
Yeah.
Yep.
who I think made it like 2 seasons. I think pretty early in season 4. I think he's out. So this would maybe suggesting that he's presenting himself as a potential informant figure for Mulder, but he also says that he was part of the syndicate and he's got an alternative plan. And we get this long conversation about the viability of their plan. But I do like see Frank, you getting mad. Why you getting mad? Why you getting mad, Frank?
It's just, at least Mulder didn't like buy into it. It's like, all right, you guys get your own agenda.
So
Like
their plan was
building Dyson spheres.
It's just they say
taken off in outer space, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so their plan is essentially you have to kill him or he's going to completely obliterate the world. And the way we're going to circumvent this, if you help us, is we're going to colonize space. And while that may sound great on paper, Mulder does have the wherewithal to go, well, hang on, what? You're going to get all of the people that are left on the planet into space? That makes absolutely no sense. You're only going to take a chosen few, and who are you to make that decision? I did appreciate that Mulder immediately poked holes in what they were offering him.
One, too. He was like, I've seen that Matt Damon movie. That doesn't end well.
No.
But it's like, for a show that already is irritating me with one conspiracy, now to enter a dueling conspiracy in there.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Great, guys. Just doubling down on things I don't want.
I didn't see how that was so much. I guess it is. Like, how is that the opposite of what Smoking Man? Smoking Man's going to do that. You have to kill him. You have to stop him. Why? Because we're going to outer space. I don't see how those are attached to each other. Is that how it was
sure.
working?
Yeah, I mean, I guess why not? I guess he's going to destroy the resources of the planet, which would make the aliens like less likely to help them get off the planet.
But why do they care if he kills everybody? They're taking off anyways. I don't
I
understand
think my reading of it, as far as that question is concerned, is just they don't like this guy and they want
Yeah.
somebody to kill this guy for him.
Yeah.
That would be my guess. I do, and I'm of two minds of this these dueling conspiracy ideas as they're being presented. On the one hand, I'm not all that upset that I'm having a hard time tracking it at this moment because these are characters who have traded in secrets and misinformation and disinformation and lies going back decades and decades and decades and decades. I think that is part of why the I Want to Believe is the title hit we get at the end of the credits, and it fades down to I Want to Lie.
Right, yeah.
Now, the flip side of that coin is even accepting that, it does make it a little bit hard as an audience member to know what you're supposed to be hooking into, even from scene to scene.
Well, I guess, from the news, I mean, with Gillian Anderson saying, "Hey, this is my last run." No matter
When
what
did she
happens.
say that? Because I've read it a lot. Was that
Like
last?
last week, I think. She
Yeah,
said she like,
it was
this-
pretty recent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's my last run.
Which really disappointed me.
And even Chris Carter said, well, you know, the last episode of this season is not written as a finale. It's just more of a conclusion. So, which already just irritates me. It's like this mythology is not going to really have any sort of ending. It's just going to stop.
It's gonna be scotch and threats.
Great.
This finale too, guys. So
Great.
But like what you were saying, like I heard that this was her last run. So these are the final 10 episodes of Scully. And if that's true, that makes me very sad. Although, hopefully I liked the episode, but it has a lot of room to redeem. I think it needs to redeem itself as far as coming back to feel like the X-Files, and instead of just an hour of let's throw 15 things into the pot.
So let's move into the final phase of this episode. Scully is up and about enough to have a conversation with Mulder after Mulder, who again made great time getting back, just straight kills a dude with a scalpel.
Wow, that was gross.
that was awesome. I
Hurting
loved
his
it.
lady. You're hurting his
Just-
lady.
He just cuts the dude's throat. Now that would be very out of place in early 90s television. Because like blood spatter, we get like, it's not a long, they don't hold on it very long, but we get a good like gnarly shot of this dude's business coming apart.
It was super hot. Mulder saving his woman like that. I will say.
And
Yeah.
so Mulder and Scully have this conversation about her visions, about whether they may be prophecy, about William, about how she does not believe this assassin was sent by the Smoking Man because she believes that Smoking Man would not hurt her. And then they come to this consensus, which exists, I believe, to facilitate them returning to the Monster of the Week cases. They come to this consensus that we're going to find William by doing nothing and allowing him to find us. Frank, I
Great.
just saw that
Yeah.
flash of rage again.
Great.
It's been working for 17 years, hasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, yeah.
It's like what's another 10 weeks?
Yeah.
I get it's gonna. This is like the medicine you have to take to get to the really good stuff, which is the Monster of the Week stuff. Which is gonna. We got a great Darren Morgan episode that's supposed to be phenomenal.
The comedy
I can't wait to see
episode?
that. Yes, I can't wait
Yeah.
to see that
Yeah.
one.
So, all right. The last bit of business we have to address for this episode is the conversation that takes place in the parking garage between Smoking Man Reyes and Skinner. So we
Last
get
3 minutes.
Yeah.
we get this information dump, which is what I use to put together my perception of what Smoking Man's end game is here. But of course, the real bombshell is in the final seconds of this episode, where it is revealed,
Dun, 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 dun.
essentially dubiously, given the source, that not Mulder, but in fact, the Smoking Man is the father of William. Now, there is a lot. Oh boy, there's a
Yeah.
lot to unpack here. So we go back to footage from the episode Enemy, as we referenced earlier,
Which
where
I loved the way they did that.
although there was a bit of added dialogue, I believe,
Was there?
because I think in the original episode he references the fact that he brought her in by himself, and they added a bit about a housekeeper helping him. So now, of course, everybody on the internet is speculating: is it the Erica Price character? Maybe will she have a bit of additional insight into this to offer? I don't know.
Or did they do that just to make it seem a little bit less rapey?
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit less directly. Well, there was
Yeah.
another lady here,
Sorry.
so it's not.
It's not
Ooh,
that
boy.
bad. Like, oh.
So all right, yeah, let's try and unpack this for a second here. Again, I'm of multiple schools of mind. On the one hand, this reveal did facilitate far and away my favorite exchange of the evening, which was Skinner saying, "You impregnated her," and Smoking Man responding, "With technology, Mr. Skinner, alien technology." Lines like that, even you got to take it in a vacuum because the context makes it super icky. But frankly, lines like that, are they not why we watch this show?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, oh wait, I'm not like a rapist. I use alien technology. It's still violating a woman, and it's still rape. Sorry, and it's just like, why? Why do we? I mean, as I say, Dr. Dana Scully, powerful FBI agent, doctor, great female lead, but they seem to want to do this on every show, and I hate to make this like, about this, but this was just. I loved the episode up until that moment, and I just literally yelled at the TV, "OFU," like I was watching hockey. I mean, it was so angry.
So, do you guys match Lacretia's level of viscera?
No, but
Yeah.
I think perhaps morally I should. What I'm saying is, I think I was saying before the show, I think that she deserves to have a louder voice in this than I do because, you know, I'm a guy. And when I saw it, it was icky to me. It's like I was like, oh, he's an old dude. I mean, I guess that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh no, come on, Scully's hot. That she deserves so much better. But like, I do agree, it was a violation, but it wasn't her first. She got cancer. So she was abducted. She was
she had
prodded.
she had her eggs stolen.
She's been like prodded, poked, and violated
for
many times. And I don't think they were. I'm hoping they're not insinuating that he naturally inseminated her. I'm hoping it was like a turkey baster, but. Why am I hoping? Why am I hoping?
Like, it makes it slightly less horrible, but it's like.
Why
it's
am I
still
wanting
there.
to? I'm not.
Yeah.
Why am I hoping for that?
Well, and two, it's like being a science experiment is a lot different than, you know, carrying a child in your womb that isn't what you thought. I mean, because it's like with Mulder, that was created out of love, and, you know, they're protecting this, and to make it his, who, you know, well, technically he's still part of Mulder, but it's disgusting, and it's unnecessary. I don't know why he thought this was good story technique, and a lot of people are, I know the Mulder and Scully shippers are really angry at them taking this away from them. But yeah, it's like, I don't even so much care about that part. It's just, why do we have to do this to every female lead?
Do we buy that it's the truth?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because there was mystery originally about whose baby it was. I mean, when was it finally revealed that it was Mulder's baby?
I thought in season 9. I thought they made it fairly explicit.
Well, before they revealed it though, who was the other? What were the other options?
I think it was just a big question mark.
Like, was it that she was experimented on? How did they ever resolve that episode? Enemy? What's it called?
Enemy, which is I believe it's French for as a friend.
Oh, really?
Yes. Well, which is makes it no, it makes it so much creepier because Smoking Man, we now know, now this is canon, Smoking Man came to Scully as a friend. Fun fact, Enemy, the only episode written by William B. Davis, the Smoking Man.
He wrote that episode?
He did.
Yeah.
So he comes to her as a friend, and then as we see, not only does not cure her cancer, but impregnates her. That's dark. That's some dark, cold business.
I don't think that was the plan 17 years ago. However many.
He's George Lucasing it. Just why do you lie? I'm sorry. Yeah.
But it's icky. I mean, no matter what clear lines you want to draw, it definitely feels icky. Is it true? At best 50-50. This seems like the type of thing that Smoking Man might say to Skinner just to try and drive a wedge between him and the other agents, create drama, etc., etc. It raises so many questions. If it's true, I guess that means William and Mulder are brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, that's icky in itself. And J473 in the chat says that's probably why Jillian doesn't want to do the show anymore.
It might
I'm
be.
like, yeah, I mean, because she's probably like, you know, I can deal with being abducted by aliens, poked, prodded, but this is taking it a step too far.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially because Gillian Anderson is a very strong and outspoken actress, and I can see her having a big issue with this.
Well, she can
She's
do
the
so
one who
much
spoke.
more.
Yeah.
She spoke up about having no females in the writers' room. Remember
Yeah.
that?
Yes. I can't necessarily speak to that. I wonder too, not that it makes the circumstance any less egregiously terrible, but maybe he means that he's the father metaphorically. I'm hoping, if we have to accept that this is true either way, I'm hoping he means he's the metaphorical father, in that it was an artificial insemination that he facilitated through alien technology. What a show.
Well, okay, to bring this up Twin Peaks a little bit, Ian Buchanan, who, you know, was Dick Tremaine, he does that on All My Children, where he was sort of the metaphorical father, and then took, basically, where Erica Kane had an abortion, and this is like, in the 70s, they decided, big deal of that time, we're going to ruin that by having, you know, Twin Peaks alum steal her embryo from that time, raise this child as his own. So if you have that as the metaphorical father, like that terrible Dr. Madden storyline that he used Mulder's stuff to make it, that makes it slightly less icky, but it's still disgusting. I'm like, but it takes a lot of disgusting soap science.
Could you say that again?
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Yeah, it's like,
No,
okay,
I'm
I've
just
seen
kidding.
this guy take this, redo, as I say, on the unaborted fetus, and, I've seen this happen on TV, but I'm like, okay, yeah, you could make it that, but I'm pretty sure Chris Carter's going dark.
Well,
Yeah.
and he has a tendency to go dark.
Yeah.
His series Millennium went so dark that people just couldn't keep.
Oh, I loved that show, though. Lance
liked-
Henderson can do that.
No,
that
I
dude's awesome.
like the dark stuff. Some of the darkest
Yeah.
stuff I've ever seen on TV was on his. I remember the episode where the woman gave birth to a hive of snakes. Do you remember that episode?
Yeah.
I think that was far grosser than.
Go check it out.
No.
Lex.
Frank's like, yep.
Yep.
Oh, it
who
was-
doesn't forget?
I was there. Do you
remember that?
Somebody giving birth to snakes.
Yeah.
No.
I've actually seen very little Millennium.
Oh, really?
Really.
I think I liked it better before Lance let his hair go gray. Then I was like, I don't know if I like, just mopey. Mopey.
It's old, man.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
What did you think about the
Yeah.
last 3 minutes? This reveal.
Man, it's I hate this episode so much anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's feeding into everything I dislike right now about the X-Files. I feel like, as I said at the beginning of the episode, it's just kind of ruining my. I know we're having better things coming, so that's why. So I'm willing to just dismiss this, but it's just not what I want out of my X-Files now, as it's brought back now. I just think it's just the show's. This is not playing to the show's strengths.
So in your perception, what would you say the show's strengths are that you would like to see them leaning a little bit more into?
Well, I think we've seen that even just from last season, just in that small sample size. Everything that wasn't a mythology episode was much better received and was, on a scale, much more enjoyable. Some had more bright spots, probably the Darren Morgan, even though that was
Mulder and Scully
Yeah.
meet the Were-Monster.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
That
Yeah.
repurposed script from Kolchak, the Night Stalker, but still, it was still a fun episode that you could easily plug into an X-Files universe.
The phone where Mulder has Jeffrey Spender's number and name. Also, we learned in Mulder and Scully Meet the Were-Monster has an X-Files ringtone. So
Yeah.
this dude is not super concerned with being found.
Well, and two, it's like, could we just let the Morgans write all the episodes? Because, you got to mix the dark and light and just keep it in the family. I just would rather watch that show.
And as someone who loves the mythology episodes, those are the ones that hook me. I'm a little bit more on the Kool-Aid side. I did enjoy last night.
Oh, see, I'm with you. Honestly, I have
enjoyed it until the end.
there are major
Yeah.
caveats,
Yeah.
major caveats. But honestly, they could make these for another 30 years, and it could get progressively worse every single year. And I'm still so in the bag.
I'm
for
the
this.
same.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I'm a fan of Star Wars. I liked Last Jedi with these big caveats. I liked last night with some big, for example, the whole mythology, the Earth was going to be invaded. Remember in the original series? So they had to say last night, oh, but we got too hot and we used up our resources, so they didn't come. So is that how they explained away that we were leading towards the invasion? Is that how they explained away the whole invasion? It just seemed too.
Yeah.
That I didn't like. That was too trite.
Well, they weirdly, I don't know that they ever did explain it, right? Because
it was supposed to have already have happened.
When we get to the original series finale, right? They say 2012 is when it's going to happen. We don't catch up with them again until that second movie. The second movie was what, 08-ish?
When they sailed off in
I
the
think
rowboat.
So. Yeah.
It was 2008.
Yeah.
It was 2008.
2008.
So we were still
4
4
years.
years out from this alien invasion.
But they
and
didn't
then
mention it.
And then it just never came.
Yeah.
And I guess, this is the first. We didn't really address it directly in that last run of 6, did we?
No, they didn't even mention it, I don't think.
So I guess this
So they had to bring it up. Why has it not happened? Here we are. We've passed it.
world got too hot. They're like, people are dumb. It's too hot here. Nope. Bye, guys.
And the aliens came, they were like, you got a big orange dude as a president? Oh, no.
So
Peace.
does that mean? Are they saying though? So there are no aliens in this run that we're doing now. We just have this alien goop in the. I mean not the goop, the contagion.
I'm not. To be honest, I am not sure. I'm sure the information is out there, but I've been trying to stay as spoiler free as possible.
The
so
truth is
I'm
out
not-
there. Is what
Yes.
you're saying?
The truth is on Twitter. I am not clear at this moment
Yeah.
what these episodes are going to contain. I know there's supposed to be one that explores Mulder's lifelong fascination with Bigfoot, and that is.
Oh, that's right. I'm so looking
Yes.
forward
Yeah.
to that. 'Cause
That-
I've had a lifelong fascination with Bigfoot.
Dude,
I hope it's played by Jason Segel. If it's not, shame.
Oh, if they had the $6 million man, they'll be just so great.
But so I guess we're going to wrap up. So since we're looking ahead anyway, why don't we jump into a round of predictions? With the alien line?
I've never done this before.
You've never. Oh,
Yeah.
this is the most exciting part because Frank Moran monologues for 7 straight minutes.
Yeah.
No, it's great. Hooray. Are you ready? Here we go.
But yeah, kick it off.
A quick last thought there is I feel like storytelling has really changed since when X-Files was originally in the air till now. And it's one thing when it was originally in the air to have a lot of mythology episodes intermixed with the Monster Week. You could have that tonal shift and audiences were just along for the ride. But I think now audiences don't want that weird tonal shift between such strong mythology and then the kind of monster of the week. I think they want something that has, if you're going to do some kind of continuous storytelling, you're going to see more of a continuous arc through an entire episode and not just a weird thing. At least that's what I'm thinking.
So would you rather see them go? Would you rather see them go all the way into Monster of the Week, or would you rather see just like a serialized season if they're going to do mythology stuff?
Oh, my dear, don't do mythology stuff anymore.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna do more, if you're gonna do more serialized nature, then you would think that these monsters of the week would then have some payoff ultimately. It will never go that way.
It's
But
like he should call up Vince Gilligan and be like, "Hey, dude, you know how you make good shows and you have like 10 episodes? How do you do that? Like,
Yeah.
that's he could have called a former writer and he could have told him.
Oh man, if Vince Gilligan would come back.
R.I.P. Battle Creek.
so my prediction is I will love the Darren Morgan episode. I will hate the next episode that Chris Carter writes, which will be the end of the season. So get ready for that.
Do you think that the Smoking Man is telling the truth?
No, I don't. I don't think. I think it's going to be like a Star Wars thing from a certain point of view.
All right, Jim, what do you got?
I think the Smoking Man's completely lying. I think he's but I do think I won't predict. This is already. I do think he's in love with Scully. I just think they're really hammering that one home. I don't think he'll ever hurt her. I think he may he would sacrifice his own life to protect Scully, and that we may see that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the only way to redeem him as a character, and I don't think we necessarily need that, but I feel like Chris Carter, maybe the Smoking Man may be sort of his version of himself, and as with writers do in the show, and that may be why he's put this, and he's in love with Scully and wants to redeem him, so that may be the ultimate sacrifice, and I can see that happening. But it's still, if what he says is true, it's icky, it's disgusting, and how dare you?
But it's Secret Seven looking a character that we want to see redeemed. I don't
Yeah,
care.
I don't want to, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I don't know. I always was pulling for him to turn her out. I never liked. The best bad guys have a little bit of good in them. The best bad guys can be turned around, I think. And I never liked that he was purely evil. Just like, remember the show Alias? I never liked that the mom turned out to be evil and she had to be shot in the head. I was rooting. Spoiler warning. I was rooting for her to come back, you know? By the way, Alias is the reason I did not watch the last couple seasons of X-Files, because it came on the same time, and I got hooked on that show. Another show that let me down the last couple seasons.
Yeah, I quit watching whenever they killed Marion Dungy off, and I was like, nope. You know, and then they put Bradley Cooper in the background. How dare you?
I know, he just kind of faded
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Oh, wrong show. Wrong show.
I
dare
haven't really seen much Alias
Yeah.
either. I was just gonna let you guys go for a second.
Yeah.
For me, my big thing in this moment is less a specific prediction than a hope. The one thing that's gonna really drive me nuts if they don't address it at all is what happened to make Reyes turn on everybody.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I hope they explain that, because I just don't see where you can logically go with this. Like, she was bad the whole time, or what?
And
Like,
honestly,
yeah.
I don't even need a super compelling
Mm.
motivation. Just give me some reason. Don't just allow it to sit there and not acknowledge it in the slightest. That would be very odd to me.
Yeah, and no more scenes of like Skinner holding a gun and like, what's your deal? And she's just sitting there quiet in the back of the car.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? You know what? In the original series, one run of the series, one of my favorite episodes was the two-parter with Scully was at the point of dying of cancer, and she kept having visions of being in a boat, and it was just there was so much human emotion in those two episodes where Fox was trying to find, I guess, the thing for her neck and all that. And I want some more of that. I want a little bit less of the 24 and a little bit more. Let's slow it down a little bit. Scully is my all-time favorite character. I want a little bit of her heart and humanity in this. And I think her search for her son, we will get that. I really do. And I'm very happy that we're going back to, she's going for her son, because I never bought her getting rid of him in the original episode.
No,
series.
and two, it's just like that was so heartbreaking in itself,
Yeah.
and especially considering Scully didn't think she could have kids after being abducted and everything. So that's why it's been so frustrating how long they've taken to really reunite them.
I think hopefully we're going to see a bit of a slowdown next week as we jump into the case of the week stuff, and that stuff I'm very, very much looking forward to. In the meantime, though, I think that's going to do it for us for this inaugural outing of season 11 of X-Files. Before we go, want to give you guys to just self-plug some more. Where can we find you on the internet, Frank Moran?
Just find me on Twitter and Instagram at HappyGoJackie. Or don't. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
Jim?
You can find me on Twitter at ConGuyJim, Instagram ConGuyJim. Also, this coming Monday night, check out the 2 weeks Con Guy Show. I never know where we're at. I'm all discombobulated, but anyways, hope to see you online.
And I'm Lacretia Lyon, guys. You can always find me at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet, since there is only one. And on this same AfterBuzz TV channel, you can watch Horror TV Weekly at 10 p.m. on Sunday nights. We talk a little bit of X-Files, but also the other horror TV shows that are a little bit lighter, like Lucifer. Join us. Yeah.
The devil.
Yeah.
And I am all over social media at the Lex Michael. I also do a podcast called Missing Out with fellow AfterBuzzer Tari J. Miller. Check us out. We are at Missing Outcast on Twitter. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean. That's one of them, right? You can find us
Sounds
there.
right.
Our most recent episode, we had another AfterBuzz host, James Lott Jr., join us to talk about the works of Gil Scott-Heron. We're very proud of this episode. It's my favorite that we've done so far. Go check that out.
me.
We had Lacretia on. Lacretia talked about Jason Lives in October.
Yeah.
Come check it out. We keep trying to get Frank Moran. He's very expensive.
Yeah.
His people play a mean game of hardball. But go check that out. We're very proud of that show. We hope
His
you
people,
like
your
it.
people.
That's right.
We got, 10 more weeks of X-Files, folks, so come on back. The truth is in AfterBuzz TV. We will see you next week.
There is hope. It's going to be good.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
I blame alien technology.
wasn't prepared for that.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.